Hello, lovelies. How are you doing today? Look who I'm chatting to. So, how are you doing today then, Mr. I'm not going fishing?
Yeah, not fishing at all. I'm recuperating from the late night wedding and all the excitement. Okay, so I'm live. I've got 3, so that works for me. And are you having people showing up on yours?
I've got 2. Oh, no, 10.
There you go. I'll be back in a sec.
Okay, how are you all doing, my lovelies? Say hi. Yay! How you doing? Oh, it's really nice to see you guys. Really nice to see you. Are you having lovely weekends? Are you? Yay! Thumbs up. Hi. Good morning, Denise. Hi, Deborah. Hi, everybody. Hi, Janice. They're all, oh, we got 26 on now. They are flying on like supersonic lovelies. Hey, Helen. How you doing, sweetheart? Arles is on. Oh, it's fantastic. I am doing brilliantly, and I was just sitting typing away at my book, and the little Skype dancey music came on, and who was on the other end? But the wonderful Dr. Gilmore. He was just wondering what I was doing, and he thought, do you know what? It's kind of early in the day in the UK, and maybe we could just have a little chat with everybody whilst the UK is not all asleep. So that's exactly what we're doing. Yay! I've been to Noreen's funeral yesterday, which was very uplifting. It was a true celebration of a wonderful, wonderful woman's 98 years of wonderfulness. And she would have been really tickled because we stopped the traffic. We walked out of the church, the priest or vicar, she's called, down the road with Noreen following her and all of her friends and family. And we walked through the village and we stopped all the traffic. She would have just giggled and giggled over that. It was a wonderful day to remember her. So, yeah, that's what I've been doing. In fact, today feels like Sunday because we had such a busy day on Friday, but actually it's still actually only Saturday. So today I've been writing my book, and we went up to the cemetery to have a little chat with Noreen. Got some what were they called? Acorns for the pigs, and now I'm chatting with you guys and with Dr. Gilmore. So what have you been up to? Tell us what you've been up to today.
Okay, so yesterday we had the big wedding, and so we were up really fairly late. After the ceremony was finished, we had the cake cutting, and we had the champagne, and we had more champagne, and then we had champagne, and wow, was it a lot of fun. I mean, we had a great time. We had about 25 people. And for a last-minute wedding, that was really outstanding. And, we just had a terrific time meeting everybody and connecting with Alexis, Gumby Jean's family. And I was so nervous for the ceremony and emotional beforehand because I just love all these folks. And as I was rehearsing, going through all the papers and everything we had to do, I had a couple of different episodes where I cried, and it was just so much love in the room, and it was amazing, and which is probably good that I got that out of my system, so I was able to get through the ceremony without just bawling my eyes out, because weddings are so beautiful, and yeah. And so we did that, and so this morning I got to sleep in a little bit. Probably usually like to go fishing on Saturday, but last weekend it was so cold, and the darling daughter had a birthday party to go to, and we didn't make any other arrangements. And I said, today's going to be a home day, and so I'm checking with the DW, saying, all right, what have you got scheduled? And she said, honey, you've been fishing the last 3 Saturdays in a row. I've got a full day scheduled. It's like I expected you to go fishing. And she's right, and the weather's beautiful. It's 70 degrees here this morning, and it's like, wow, we could have hit the water, but they all had things to do, and I didn't make any other arrangements. So I ran a bunch of errands. Last weekend I went fishing, and I lost my sunglasses. My prescription sunglasses blew right off my face, and I know they make connectors for them, so that doesn't happen. And I have a set, and I just didn't use them, and so I lost my hat, and Abby had lost her hat, and I had lost my sunglasses. So went in and ordered new sunglasses, and those showed up this morning. So I made a trip into town to pick up some sunglasses, and while I was out, got a new cigar box for Wink's projects, and so somehow we're going to get a bunch of these together. And when we send a big box to you of a Meta 7, we might figure out a way to sneak this in there somehow for you.
Excellent.
So you can get that too. This is a really what's a cherry wood box they gave me this morning. It was really awesome. So did that and went by the money machine so we can pay the various and sundry little expenses over the next week. And I found a really cool movie, a sci-fi movie I'm going to watch later, and there's going to be an afternoon nap involved. And then I started thinking, every time we do these vegan discussions with poor Sue and her fans in the UK, it's midnight. And I said, you know what? Let's see what Sue's up to and see if she wants to do something that's a little bit more friendly to the UK fans. And so I thought, yeah, let's check. And so we went through about the last 45 minutes upgrading your software because it was time for you to upgrade everything because your trial period had run out. So we've been back and forth and made sure that your technology is working, and you did a beautiful job. Good work.
With your help, thank you very much.
And we had a good chat with Wink about his cigar box guitar and his learning to tune and all that goes in, that a musician would understand, that goes into all of that. And I admit I don't have I don't know a lot about that, but I've had some guitars and I used to play a little bit in the past, but nowhere near like what a professional guitar player like Wink is would do. So he was sharing his experience, and so we got that done. And here I am, and I've got 4 people on my channel because nobody expects me to be on today. And you probably have 400 on yours, and that's fine. How many do I have
on? 36 Lovelies are watching. Someone has suggested that maybe you might have a hangover.
Me?
For your wedding. Yes, somebody was laughing, going, he has a hangover.
No, I don't. I feel great. I feel great. I feel fantastic.
You look great. My back is fantastic, thanks.
I got invited to the birthday party, and I said, I'm going to say no to the 14-year-old girl's birthday party, so...
I don't blame you. I'm not sure I would want to go to one of those as well. Wink is in his shed or man cave, struggling to tune the neck of the guitar. So he's doing his thing where I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. No, I don't think it's going to work. And I said, well, you always say this and you always find a way, so I'm sure you will. So he's gone back into the shed, so he's working on that. And Pam is asking if you have seen the flu in your area yet, Jack.
We really are not seeing a wave of flu. We had, I think we've had 1 or 2 cases that have come back serum positive. So we're seeing a flu-like illness, and we're swabbing and we're getting negative results. So we're seeing an upper respiratory virus or upper respiratory infection, kind of like what I had, that I thought was a virus or a cold that went on past 10 days before, in fact 2 weeks before I decided to take some medicine, and it cleared it right up. So I'm pretty convinced I had an atypical bacterial bronchitis, and that's kind of been working through our clinic, and we're seeing some patients with that. And so typically that's a mycoplasma, which is actually a bacteria that acts a lot like a virus, and it just continues to linger until you treat it, and it goes away quickly with a basic antibiotic. So I've finally gotten over it. I've gotten my sinuses back. I'm now in complete ownership of my sinuses, and so I don't sound like I'm wearing some kind of nose plug a lot. So that's been good. And anyway, so but no flu. It's a good question. I'm just not seeing the flu, which means that we might see a flu season either more around the New Year's time, or we could get a late flu season in February or March. And when those happen, those are awful, because generally speaking, most people who've gotten the flu shot, the flu shot itself is no longer working after 3 months. So a lot of people don't realize that your flu shot's usually only good for about a 3-month time period. And that's important to know for people that have chronic medical problems like us, upper respiratory issues like emphysema or chronic bronchitis or COPD, or restrictive lung disease or other lung problems especially, but those that might be immunocompromised or those that might have heart disease or serious diabetes, we want to get them back in January and give them a second flu shot. And that's really important because you get your first flu shot usually in September or the first part of October, and that covers you for the end of that calendar year, but it doesn't cover you into the super early part of the, well, I think of it as spring here in Texas, but starting in January. So you actually are not covered. You might still have a little bit of immunity left over from that flu shot, but you're not covered anymore for a real onslaught. So we recommend a lot of our patients, especially our elderly patients or those with those chronic illnesses, to come back and get a second flu shot in January. And if they're older than 65, we refer them over to one of the large infusion center pharmacies, the big pharmacies that have the flu shots. Because in our clinic we don't carry the flu zone or the high dose flu shot, and so we just get them back over there to get those. So we do that, and that's how we sort of deal with the flu every year. In some years we get lucky and we get a really good flu vaccine that covers well, and we don't get much of a flu epidemic at all. And then other years, like last year, the flu shot was just not very effective. By the time it had reached the U.S., our part of the country, we realized that the flu virus had mutated, and so as a result, the flu vaccines just were not very effective. I actually ended up with a case of flu in March. I kind of felt a little bit achy, and I swabbed myself at lunchtime, and it came back positive for flu A, so I immediately left the clinic, picked up the Tamiflu, went home, took both doses that night, stayed home one day, felt fantastic, no fevers, and I was back to work the day after. So I like to think that I got some benefit from the flu shot anyway, even though the virus had mutated. So it was probably the shortest flu I'd ever had, but it was definitely a real flu. And the fact that I'd gotten started on the Tamiflu almost immediately on diagnosis probably helped me quite a bit too. So Tamiflu can be very effective if you get started early. So hope that helps somebody out there. I like to talk about the flu, but the flu is not really a super exciting topic, but it's a very important topic, especially if you end up with one of those that gets a serious case of the flu and you end up in the hospital. So this can be avoided if we all get together and get our flu shots. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that just don't trust the flu shot, or they got the flu shot years ago before it was more perfected, and they got sick with it, and so they've sort of left themselves out of getting a flu shot every year. So they're really depending on everybody else to get the flu shot to prevent it from spreading, throughout the community. We call that herd immunity. So if we get enough people in the herd that have the flu shot or are immune, then the virus can't get through. Just like measles and things like that, these other illnesses, we don't have 100% of our population that is protected with immunization. And as a result, those that have not immunized their children, they are dependent on enough other people having gotten those vaccines.
Goodness me. It's never really occurred to me to have a flu shot. Maybe
Really?
Because never really, because I just think I'm made of, those in Scotland, made of iron brew, made of girders, and I've never got the flu. I don't catch colds. I don't catch I didn't catch the Abbey virus, did I?
No, you did not.
And I tend not to ever catch any of these things, so it's never really occurred to me. And of course, I consider myself to be, incredibly young. But actually I'm going to be 55 in, 3 months time. So maybe I'm at the age where I should definitely protect myself from that. I think, your advice is better than what I think in my own head, I suppose. But it's not really offered, in my GP surgery. I haven't really seen it offered. And I know, apparently there's a shortage of it in Scotland. I think Kat was saying that. Was that you, Kat, that was saying it was short? There was a shortage of it, so I don't really know how readily it is to get available. And the whole thing of every time the flu comes around, it's different, so it doesn't work, is the kind of the amateur speak that goes around the whole flu shot thing.
Well, the thing with the flu virus is that it incubates over the summer in Asian countries, and it lives in the fowl. It lives in the birds, and specifically in ducks. I believe. And as a result, what happens is here from the United States, a crew from the CDC will go and collect samples of the flu virus from duck eggs in Asian countries, and then they bring it back and they incubate it in chicken eggs, excuse me. They incubate it in eggs, and then we develop a virus for that strain of the flu. And that's one of the reasons why if a person has an egg allergy, they can't get the flu shot. So they take that and then they mass produce it. Well, there's a number of months that'll transpire before or elapse before that virus will actually migrate across and hit our shores. So there's enough time where that virus can actually mutate, and then the flu shot is not as effective as a result of that. It's not that it doesn't work. It's just that it doesn't work for the new strain. So if the flu virus would just be courteous and not mutate
and not be clever,
it'd be a lot more active. That's right. So
right, I've got loads of questions about the flu shot. Okay, I'm just going to run through them. Somebody's asking, Janice is asking, she doesn't know if a flu jag, that's what it's called in Scotland, instead of a jab, they call it a jag, J-A-G, but anyway, is good.
Is that like a shot?
Like a jag, yeah, a flu shot is good for multiple sclerosis. Some say yes, some say no.
It shouldn't have any effect on multiple sclerosis. What it does, though, is it helps protect people with MS who are on biological agents to help them fight the MS. And so as a result, they are immunocompromised, and as a result, they don't want to get the flu, and so we recommend the JAG for them so they don't get sick with the flu. The flu is a killer. Some of the biggest pandemics in the last 150 years, illnesses that have swept the planet, have been flu. Hundreds of millions of people have died in the past. I believe there was a flu pandemic in the year 1900 that literally killed tens of millions of people around the globe. So what we do in each country, how we help slow that process down, saves lives in other countries. Did you see you got an Iron Sue there, Sue? Because that's your new nickname since you never get sick. Iron Sue.
I'm very blessed, absolutely blessed. I think, somebody's saying that they almost died from flu in 2014. They were hospitalised. And in fact, my cousin's partner almost died just before Christmas last year. We had something called the Australian flu, which, literally killed 27-year-olds. Just like, you didn't have to be elderly or very young. You just had to be anybody that, it almost killed him. He had a very high heart rate for like so many days, they couldn't get it down. People are talking about our kids in Scotland up here get a nasal spray flu vaccine up in Scotland.
That's also can be very effective too. So, yeah, absolutely.
Right, there's someone else that says, Janice is saying she gets the flu shot every year, but a nurse friend advised her to think about getting it as it has mercury in it.
Well, it's thimerosal is what it's called, and there's always a risk with any kind of injection, and there's always the concern that we have about illnesses related to these injections and immunizations in general. And a lot of people don't want to give their children immunizations because of the risk of autism and other illnesses. But what we're leaving out of and there may be some truth in this, and I personally think that there is some possibility that these shots can cause some problems. But when you take into account the millions of lives that are saved by making sure that that children don't get whooping cough and measles and mumps and rubella, adult varicella, adult chickenpox can be fatal. And so making sure that we keep our population immunized is extremely important. Now, does that mean that it's 100% safe? No, I don't. But I guarantee you don't want your children to get measles, and I guarantee you don't want them to get these other childhood illnesses, because they absolutely are killers. So just like taking a medicine, we're spinning a giant roulette wheel, and you know that when you take a medication, there's a possibility that you're going to have an unusual reaction to it. This is a fact of life, and it's not, it's not pretty. Thimerosal is considered to be safe, generally speaking. There are some people that have problems with it. And if we find out you do, well, then certainly we try to not give you any more immunizations. But when you put yourself in that category, then you leave yourself open to actually getting those diseases, and they're horrible. So I think everything has to be taken with an understanding that, those things, those possibilities, and those are realities of life. It's just like getting on an airplane. You expect that you're going to get where you go, but you know that your odds of getting there are pretty close to 100%, but it ain't 100%.
No, there's nothing's 100%.
Right.
But I think, well, I had my son, I had the triple vaccine, which was the thing that supposedly caused autism. But I believe they proved that was actually, it wasn't correct. That doctor that started that whole thing off. And
this starts off the conspiracy theories, right? The data is skewed, and the big pharmaceutical companies are out to make a ton of money, and they're more interested in making money than saving lives. And I don't know. I hope not. I hope that people that are in healthcare, in pharmaceuticals are really genuinely interested in healthy people and making a fair profit both. And I have no problem with them making a fair profit saving lives. But let's face it, without these vaccines, go back 150 years ago, and childhood mortality was much, much higher as a result of all these illnesses that we now prevent with a simple immunization. So let's keep things in perspective. I think it's very important. And are there risks? Yes. And I'm not going to lie to you and say that there aren't. But we immunized our children, and I get the shots. And I think it's a very fair trade-off. I think the risk is very, very low, and I think the benefit is very, very high. But when somebody comes in and they tell me they don't want a flu shot because they got one and they got sick, I don't argue with them. I say, okay, yeah, that's your decision. We recommend it, but you don't have to have it. And I move on because I don't want to get into a long discussion about that. I think there's enough of that out there on the internet, and people can make their own decisions. But medically speaking, we know we save many, many lives every year by being aggressive about the flu shot and about fighting the flu. And whether you get the nasal spray flu vaccine or an injection or what have you, that's all your choice. But consider getting vaccinated, and consider getting the shingles vaccine too. We've got a brand new shingles series of vaccines called Shingrix. Here, I don't know if it's got the same name across the pond, but I suspect it's something similar. But it's the old Zostavax was only somewhere around 50% effective, so there were a lot of people, especially elderly people, who had gotten the Zostavax who ended up with shingles anyway. Well, shingles is an extremely painful thing to go through. And if you get shingles on the face, it can affect the cornea. It can get into the eye, and you can have shingles-based blindness. I have a patient who that happened to. He wasn't seeing me as a patient at the time. He was a patient of mine in my old clinic and didn't make the transition to our new clinic. And unfortunately, he was admitted with what was called a cellulitis, or an infection around the eye. He was in the hospital for 2 weeks, saw all kinds of infectious disease doctors and so forth, and he lost his vision in his eye. And quite frankly, he was misdiagnosed. And he came to me, and because he had this infection starting again, he goes, "Can you help me? That nobody's helping me with this, and I've already lost vision in this eye. I've got some shade still." And I looked at him. I said, "Well, you have shingles. Did they do anything about that?" He goes, "No, I don't have shingles." I said, "You have shingles." And I immediately sent him over to an ophthalmologist who has slit lamp examination of his cornea and confirmed with me that, yeah, you called it right, he has shingles. So he lost his vision because he'd been misdiagnosed. They had missed the shingles, and that was completely preventable. But here's a bigger thing. If we could have prevented the shingles in the first place, he'd still have vision in both eyes. Yeah. And now the Shingrix vaccines we recommend starting at age 50 because as of age 50, you have a 99% chance of having had chickenpox today. Now, the kids coming up aren't going to have these same risks, but because they have the varicella vaccine to help prevent the chickenpox and prevent shingles from the get-go. They never get the virus. They get immune to it. So those of us that didn't have that advantage, we have the chickenpox virus living in our body already, so we're already at risk of getting shingles. So Shingrix we're really recommending too. So, hey, I don't know how we got into immunizations. We're supposed to be talking about eating healthy to stay healthy. We got Iron Sue over here who never gets anything, right? Yeah, but I'm happy to talk about vaccines if you all want to. I have no problem with that.
Well, there was just loads of questions about it. People are talking about shingles now, of course. On my channel, someone's asked for your email address, and Laurie has sent you a question. Bit of talk about the MMR conspiracy. Tracy says she's not old enough for the shingles vaccine at 55.
Yes, right? She is.
Right. Okay. Apparently you are, Tracy.
By U.S. standards, we start at 50. It used to be 60, but now it's 50.
Right. Okay. I'm going to have to find out about these things. I found out that the flu vaccine isn't generally offered in the UK, but if you want it, you can have it for a tenner. So you can actually ask to have that done. So that might be something I do actually. I'm not going to talk with my mouth full. So I'm going to put that chip back in the bag. So all about shingles. So just checking. So there's a question for you.
Okay, well, I'm reading a question from Lori in Alberta, which I'll be happy to talk about real quick. But I want to be sure, Lori, if you guys send me a question and you list me all, and we're online and you're listing all this, I'm presuming you're okay if I talk about, I won't use your last name, but if I talk about these things, I don't want to put anything online that you don't want online. So I'm presuming if you ask me this question, that you're okay if I discuss it. I think that's fair. Am I right on that, Lori? Is Lori on your side? I think she's on your side. She may have sent me.
Lori, can you hear? Can you just give me the thumbs up if it's okay to talk about? Oh, we have a troll, everybody. We have a troll.
So the trolls on your side, you're going to have to disable them. They're not on mine.
Right, guys, we need to get rid of Jeff Chang. Can you see that comment? It's not allowing me to do anything. Hang on, I might be able to do it from my iPad.
You'll have to go on your iPad and you can block that user, okay. But you have to go on to YouTube to do it. So, okay, so Laura, you have a question. They're telling you you're a late onset type 1 diabetic.
Yes, please, she says. You can talk about it.
It says initially you were diagnosed as type 2, but you never fit a type 2. You're thin, physically fit, and always ate right. You tried diet pills and progressed to the 24-hour very quickly and soon after rapid before meals. I'm not sure what that means. Recently told that you should have started with insulin from the onset, which might have given your pancreas the rest it needed. Okay, trying to rest the pancreas means it's not type 1. That would mean type 2. Okay, let's see. Type 2, is type 2 rarely misdiagnosed? That's actually type 1. No, it's almost always type 2 in adults. Adult onset diabetes is almost always type 2, and I say almost. And I'm reading your case here. You're 59 years old, very active, and you're thin. So they've got you on metformin 2 times a day. Metformin does not help at all in type 1. Metformin is not a medication that we use for type 1 diabetes. You're on 19 units of Levemir. You're on a rapid insulin, which apparently you're on a sliding scale. Synthroid. Your blood pressure looks good. Your weight looks very reasonable for your height. I can tell you that you may have type 1 diabetes. And if you do have adult onset type 1 diabetes, then the metformin you're taking is of zero assistance to you whatsoever. There is a test that can be run to find out whether you are producing enough insulin. your doctor can order a C protein. They can actually order a test that will look at your insulin level and look at your insulin to see if you are producing your own insulin. If you're producing your own insulin but not enough of it, and you have insulin resistance, then you are more of a 1.5. You're in the middle. And I think that's what they think you are, and that's why there's so much confusion here. So most adult onset diabetes is type 2, okay? So in your particular case, you may actually be a type 2 insulin requiring, which would make you a 1.5. But you're not on very much insulin. So it has me curious that you may actually be a type 2 diabetes, which you're saying type 1B, which I think is, we're talking about the same thing. I call it a type 1.5, where you're in the middle. You're only on 17 units of Levemir, which is a very low dose, and you didn't tell me how often you're taking your immediate release insulin before meals. I'm suspecting you're doing a sliding scale 3 times a day in bedtime. There are other medications. If you find a doctor that would be willing to take you off the insulin and add a couple more oral hypoglycemic agents, there's a chance that you wouldn't need insulin. If that fails, then you have your answer that you are an insulin requiring and you could consider yourself a type 1 diabetic. So you're right in the middle. You don't fit the normal box of what we see as a type 2 diabetic. It is possible that you could develop an autoimmune problem as a result of consuming milk-based or dairy-based products and developed an autoimmune attack against your own beta cells that produce your insulin, which is possibly the case. If that's the case, then you're just not going to make enough insulin and you are going to remain insulin dependent. So for you, I would recommend, of course, as I do with everybody, a whole food plant-based diet. There's a possibility that with resting your pancreas, we could see some regeneration of those beta cells if we stop filling our body with the dairy products that can lead to type 1 diabetes. We know this happens. So your case is really complex in the fact that you are in the middle. And the only way to know for sure what the best way would be to do some tests on you and to find out what happens to your glucose if you come off of the insulin. And like I said, 17 units of Levemir is a very, very low dose. My type 1 diabetics or my diabetics that are type 2 that have moved on to type 1.5, they've burned out their pancreas. Their pancreas no longer functions like it should. They end up being on 100 units of Levemir or split out to 2 doses of 60 or even 80 units. They're on 10 times this amount of Levemir. So I'm very suspicious that you may not be a type 1 diabetic, that you just may be a type 2 diabetic for whatever reason, and that you should be able to get by with oral medications. So that's the best answer I can give you without more medical information. So I hope that helps. I think that I would go in and I would have them do the blood test to check your insulin. It's a C protein test, not to be confused with C-reactive protein. It's called protein C. They can check that and see if you're actually producing normal insulin, and not normal levels of insulin, but normal insulin. And that's another thing that can be checked. They can take you off of this insulin, and a week later they can bring you in and they can measure your own insulin levels. We can actually get a true insulin level and find out indeed if you are producing enough insulin and if it is a healthy insulin or a normal insulin. So those are just a couple of simple tests that can possibly tell you whether you're going to need to be on insulin permanently or not. So that's the best I can do with the information I have here. Hope that helps you.
That is supersonic. I have got a few more questions for you, and we will get to them all. Somebody suggested that if you've got a question you want me to ask, to type it in capitals so that when I'm trying to whiz back, I can spot them easily. Now, Deborah.
Well, let me suggest something else too, Sue. If they have a question for me, they can simply log over to John Gilmore MD and find my vignettes channel, jump in, type the question,
yeah,
and then they can go back over to your channel. They don't have to stay. I'll find the question that way, and then I can answer it for them. So
yeah, that is a cool way. Or it helps me to find them. And of course I've been whizzing up and down now, and I've lost this one. Just hang on a second. We are definitely going to talk about motivation for healthy eating. I've been asked about that, but I just wanted, as we were on diabetes, I wanted to just get to that one. And do you know what? It's completely gone. It was A1 of something or other and something or other of 4.2, and I cannot find it because, oh, hang on, it's above here. My A1C is 5.4. What does that mean?
Means you're normal.
Fabulous. I'm just loving that. Of course, nobody wants to be normal, but maybe in a medical sense we do.
Well, now let me throw something out. I'm presuming they mean it's an A1C and they're not on medications for diabetes.
I don't know.
That would be normal.
That would be normal. Okay.
That would be normal.
So that's fantastic. So,
yeah.
Somebody was asking about motivation about eating, and do you know what, Tracy? I know it was you, but I can't find it now because you've all sent me so many messages just now. I think, okay, the positivity you need, or rather the willpower. It starts with willpower to stick to a healthy eating regime. Okay, you must focus on the result that you want. You know, why are you even thinking? Why is it even a niggle at the back of your head that you'd like to become more healthy? You know, it might be because you don't feel too good. It might be because you can't fit into your favourite trousers. It may be because you're out of breath when you walk up the stairs. You know, it may be because you don't sleep well. It could be for lots and lots of reasons, you know. So do you want to carry on not feeling so well, feeling out of breath, not being able to fit into your favourite trousers or whatever? You know, no, you don't. So you're thinking, oh, I really ought to do, I really must do something, I really should do something. Okay, so you have a vision of what it is you might want to look like, how you might want to feel. If you could wave a magic wand and be the healthy, fit thing, the yoga body. In my head, I want to have a yoga body and be able to do loads of things. You know, what would that feel like if you achieved your goal? How would you feel about yourself? And I think you need to put that into your mind's eye. You need to keep that, like, you know, right in front. I'm not putting that packet or two of biscuits in my mouth because I want to look like this. I want to feel like this. I don't want to be sluggish. I don't want to be tired. You know, I want, you know, we've all got kids. Most of us have got kids. Not everyone has, but we've all got people in our life that we love. We don't want to be leaving them behind because we couldn't get enough of a grip on ourselves to not put things in our body that are actually going to be bad for our health and shorten our lives. This one special miracle of a life that we have, that, you know, that we're enjoying. So I would say put that vision in your mind's eye. Now, if you're somebody that's always going to your fridge and like swinging off the door going, what can I eat now? What can I eat now? Do not have pork pies in there. Do not have junk in there. Don't have all those things. Don't have those things in your house. Don't buy them. Walk past that aisle in the supermarket. Have things that, you know, if you're hungry, eat a carrot. Have another carrot. Have another carrot. Eat carrots all day long if you want to. Something that's good for you. Actually, it wouldn't be good if you just ate carrots all day because you wouldn't be changing your eating habits. And you need to change your habits. So you
eat from the garden.
Eat from the garden. There you go.
Eat
from the garden. So focus on your goal. Okay. And somebody went, my husband sabotaged my healthy eating. Don't let him. Don't let him. Okay. Don't just, if he's cooking steak and chips or, you know, stuff, just you eat the chips and say, you can have my steak, darling. I'm going to have some radishes.
I want to address, that's a great statement you made about spouses. So your spouse is not vegan, and neither is mine.
No.
But that doesn't mean we have to try to hammer this veganism into them. As a result of me being vegan, my daughter is almost vegan. She's more of a vegetarian, occasionally a little something, but she understands that there's real health importance there. Now, it's a lot of work. and it's not easy, but it's worth it. And what I tell my patients is you can decide whether you want to be healthy or not based on almost strictly on what you eat. And if you have a big heart attack and you die, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's not what's going to happen. You're going to have a big heart attack and you're going to be rushed to the emergency room. They're going to put stents in you and you're going to be on 10 medications. You're never going to have energy. You might need oxygen down the road. You're going to spend the rest of your life going to doctors and you're going to be miserable for the rest of your life. So you decide how you want to live. If you really don't care, if you really don't care how you spend the rest of your life, then none of this discussion matters to you anyway. But if you care that you have these years left and you know that when a catastrophe occurs, you're going to rush for help then all we're saying to you is you don't have to wait until the catastrophe occurs, because you're having a little catastrophe every day. Every time you eat something that you know you shouldn't eat, or that we're telling you shouldn't eat because you didn't know, you're causing a little bit of damage, a little more damage, a little more damage every day, and eventually the big one's going to happen. And it might be in the form of a stroke, it might be in the form of a blood clot, it might be in the form of a heart attack, it might be in the form of cancer, it will very likely be in the form of diabetes, but you will no longer enjoy the ability to have the mobility and the energy to do the things that you that you expect and want to do. And that can mean not enjoying your grandkids and not enjoying the things that you would otherwise enjoy doing, which might be fishing, or it might be getting out with your friends to play bridge. I don't know what you like to do, but your life is going to change in a way that you're going to regret at that point that you didn't do more to stay healthy. It's like Mickey Mantle said, you know, if he had known he was going to live as long as he was going to live, he'd have taken better care of himself. And that's a true quote. So realize that you're making a decision every day about your future, and you're making decisions, and they may seem like small decisions, but on the scope of things, we're literally, in the Western world, we're destroying our bodies, and then we're pointing our fingers at healthcare systems and doctors and medications and everybody else's fault, when all we have to do is take control and eat deliberately, as opposed to anything that just happens to come our way. Yeah. And that's what Sue was talking about. Anything in the fridge was in danger. Yeah, I mean, that looks, you know, I don't do that anymore. I have to look past all those other things that I know that I can't eat, and I'm looking for a tomato, or I'm looking for a green pepper, or I'm looking for something that I can slice up and eat and be healthier.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, I think somebody said that their husband's in charge of all the cooking and does all of that. And, you know, I think look, my husband, he used to call everyone who was a vegetarian, and we didn't even talk about vegans. Gosh, no. Everyone that was a vegetarian had a voluntary eating disorder. So if he had someone that was a vegan that was going to come round, you know, to dinner at his house, not that I can imagine him ever cooking a dinner party, because he just ate takeaways and he didn't eat any vegetables for like 40 years. He would just say, no, I'm not cooking anything special for them. If they want to have a self-inflicted voluntary eating disorder, well, that's their business. They can just bring their own food. And he would get on his little soapbox about it. A little speech he probably came up as an angry 18-year-old, and he just kept churning out. And so vegans were just like, you know, 10 times worse than that. But what Wink noticed was that when I started eating healthier, I started looking better. And for sure, you know, I was like, I think it will be 5 years ago in February that I ended up on antidepressants. And I put on 3 stone in weight, so that is 56 pounds, I think it is. I put on 56 pounds after my early menopause and was just like this fat blob of a person. That's a horrible thing to say, but that was my own self-talk. I was a fat blob of a person. I'd lost all my physical strength. I'd lost my stamina. I couldn't any longer do anything except pee over a 3-foot wall. And with that, I lost my whole identity, because I was always a tomboy right from the get-go. I could lift anything. I was strong. I could give me a set of clippers and I could cut every hedge down. I used to be a landscape gardener, painter and decorator. You know, I used to do heavy garden work, laying concrete, putting in metal edging, you know, to flower beds and stuff. And I loved it, moving tons and tons of gravel and soil and, you know, and I couldn't even lift my own laundry basket. I just became this just shell of who I was, and this kind of like pathetic woman that couldn't do anything. And that was my own self-talk. So this is not me putting it out there. This is what my own little best friend, who wasn't really my best friend, was telling me. And Wink watched me change my diet to whole foods. I wasn't vegan then, but whole foods, a lot less meat, eating, you know, live nutrients, lots of fruits and vegetables. And he saw that my health got better. He saw that I lost the weight and I was, you know, getting trimmed down to, you know, maybe being able to look at my wedding dress, let alone, you know, fit into it. And I was happier. You see, this is the thing, when you put the right things in your body and your gut works properly. You know, I keep going on about probiotics and your gut working properly, but it makes everything your gut. Sorry, the screen is banging up and down because I've got the laptop on my lap and I've just been banging my stomach and it's making my laptop bang about. So sorry if you're feeling a bit seasick. But in here, this is where you get your nutrients. This is where your body absorbs the things you eat. If this isn't working right, it cannot absorb the good things that you have. It just can't. So then I did the vegan thing, Veganuary, and he was like, well, no, I wish you wouldn't do that. And we had kind of a few arguments about it because we didn't eat together anymore. We cooked something for Finian because he's got his weird, wonderful texture thing with his sensory processing disorder, and he hardly eats anything. So we didn't want to eat what he ate. So then Wink would have his like steak, meat, everything has to have meat, cheese on the top of it. And then I'd be having my stir-fried veg. And it did cause a little bit of arguments to begin with. But then he's seen how much healthier I am, how much happy I am, how proud I am. You know, I'm not pushing down his throat, oh, the poor little bunny rabbits and the poor little cows and, you know, all of that business. I'm not. So we put the animal thing aside because he has his whole soapbox argument about that. And as long as I don't inflict my eating style on him, as he would say, that's fine. And sometimes I cook a really nice vegan meal he can't be bothered to cook and I give it to him and he likes it. It's in his head, the whole meat thing. But now it's not a problem that I want to be a vegan. It's not. But it was a problem. So this is something, he loves me, he wants me to be happy, and I shouldn't have to compromise my ethical and my beliefs just because I'm married to him. It doesn't mean we're any the less joined. It just means that he wants to eat his steak and I'm not going to chastise him for it, and he shouldn't chastise me for wanting to eat a beetroot. So that's how we got over it.
I have something I want to throw in here.
Okay, cool.
I've gotten some interesting messages from a person who is POTR64, and I put some of them up. And I want to respond to these because I think they're very fair questions.
Okay.
So I'm going to run through some of this. The first thing, and I don't know if this is a male or a female, so the first thing this person said was, the thing you're all talking about, being vegan for your own health, but what are your thoughts about extending compassionate thoughts beyond ourselves to animals and indeed the planet in total? And first of all, I've said this before, but I am totally against animal cruelty in any form. I do not think that industrialized farming is very compassionate at all. I've seen lots of videos and it's disgusting. Secondarily, what do I think about what it does to the planet? I believe the research is out. Yes, okay. The research is very clear. There is a conspiracy to keep it quiet that the number one producer of greenhouse gases is animal husbandry. The raising of animals around the world is doing more damage to our planet than all the burning of fossil fuels for any other reason. So if you are truly concerned about the planet, if you are a believer in global warming, or if you're even a skeptic, then you should consider eating less animal products, okay? Because you'll do more to help the planet than just about anything, than walking to work will do. People who are in California they're being told, don't run the water while you brush your teeth because it uses up so much water. You save 2 gallons of water by doing that. What they're not being told is if they walk down to their nearest McDonald's and they have a quarter pounder with cheese, that quarter pounder uses up about 600 gallons of water to produce the beef that's inside of it. So it's insane that we're not getting the truth is not out there. So in Indeed to the Planet, yeah, I say let's not eat the animals because first of all we don't need to, and secondarily it's not healthy. But thirdly, it does a lot of damage to our planet. So you went on and you said you'd been a vegan for 6 years and that you were vegan overnight after being a vegetarian for 9 years. And you looked at what happened to cows and chickens and you have a ton of health issues and yet you maintain a complete whole food, strict vegan, non-gluten diet. So you're frustrated that you're not well because you are working toward all of these things. The flip side of that is because of all your medical problems, had you not gone vegan and had you not been a vegetarian before that, I would bet you'd be a heck of a lot sicker now than you otherwise would have been, and you may have saved your life by making those changes. Also, I'd like to say the autoimmune damage to your body, the Hashimoto's, the diabetes, the celiac disorder, other issues, may have started long before. Those autoimmune issues may have started long before you went vegan. And by the way, if you're a vegetarian and you're still eating eggs, then you might as well just eat chicken. It's the same protein. If you're eating butter, milk, dairy, cheese, then you might as well eat a steak because to your body the proteins are the same. If you are a vegan and you are overweight, then you are not eating right as a vegan because it's nearly impossible to eat a healthy vegan diet and be overweight. 80% of your diet needs to come from fresh fruits and vegetables, 10% from mushrooms, and only 10% from starches. If you are a vegan and you are staying overweight and you are not losing weight to get down to a more normal, healthy body mass index, it is because you are eating way too much in the form of starches. You need to separate your starches from your other carbohydrates, okay? Starches, bad. Carbohydrates, good. Are starches carbohydrates? Yes. Are carbohydrates starches? Yes, in a lot of cases. But what we're saying is you're not going to be obese and overweight if you eat basically colored fruits and vegetables, and with less than 10% of your diet coming from starchy like potatoes and rice and those kind of things. Okay. You asked again, is it still the best thing for the planet? Yes, I'm agreeing with you there. And you're looking for answers, and I can tell you that there's something wrong with your diet. You should not be overweight. If you have type 2 diabetes, you should be able to cure that with a whole food plant-based diet or at least dramatically improve it, okay? Your Hashimoto's, your celiac, your numerous other issues, I would bet almost all of those are related to your history of having consumed animal products. And you can't go vegan and immediately expect that all of these medical problems are going to go away. But you can expect an improvement if you already have them. You can slow down the progression of these diseases. And in some cases, and we're not saying this is a cure-all, what we're saying is in some cases we can prevent these diseases that you're dealing with now. I don't know what your age is, but chances are what you're dealing with was autoimmune related to diet choices that you had made 15 years ago. And what we're seeing today is an epidemic of these problems that are popping up all over the place, and they're popping up because of our diet and because of our dietary choices that are so heavily animal product based. It's almost impossible to go out and eat here in restaurants here in Texas and get a whole food plant-based diet. It's almost impossible.
Yep.
Okay, so you're 54. So, before 40 years of age, that's probably about the time that you began to have problems. And at that point you went vegetarian, but you probably didn't cut out the eggs and the cheese and the dairy and all of that. So you continued for those next 9 years of exposing yourself to those proteins that were causing you problems. Now you've gone vegan, and I presume by vegan you mean strict vegan, and you've probably lost some weight, but you're still dealing with obesity problems or overweight problems. And I can tell you that's because that's a common problem because of lack of understanding that you've got to stratify those vegan products, and you've got to make a very small percentage of your diet starches. Now, I have a problem with starches too, and I'm an overeater. And my way of dealing with that is I fast twice a week. I fast on Mondays and Thursdays. I eat nothing. So I help reverse the damage that those starches are doing to my body because I find it very difficult on occasion to eat as healthy as I'd like to eat. That doesn't mean I'm not still trying. But for me, I find that I do fasting. Intermittent fasting helps me do things like drop my A1C from 5.9 to 5.1, got me out of prediabetes. It doubled my kidney function. It reduced my cholesterol to normal levels. My triglycerides went from over 600 down to 149. I got off of 2 blood pressure medicines. I got off of 2 inhalers for asthma. I made a dramatic change in my diet, and I did it in the correct way. And I'm not saying you're not doing it in the correct way. The damage that you're dealing with in your body may be permanent, but you can stop it from worsening by maintaining a strict vegan diet, okay? So I hope I've fairly answered your questions, and I hope you're not offended by my answers, but I like to be straightforward and truthful and honest with everybody about this. So look at what you're eating and get some good information out there. I recommend a book called Proteinaholic. There are others, but it's a good book. It's easy to read. And it will tell you a lot. There's another fantastic book called The China Study, and there have been some updates on it, and it is very heavy into the science. But if you have a lot of medical problems and you want to know where they came from, and you want to know why people in Okinawa, Japan don't get these illnesses, and you want to know why the strict vegans who live in Loma Linda, California don't get these diseases, and you want to know why the strict vegans in rural India don't get these diseases, I can tell you it has everything to do with the fact of what they're eating. It's a lifestyle question. It's a lifestyle issue. I live in the city, in a city that has the distinction of having the most people eating out of as a percentage of any city in the world. More people eat out in Houston, Texas than they do anywhere else in the world, okay? And I promise you, they're not eating healthy because I know what's on the menus of these restaurants. And I see it. They come in one after another, and they're 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 pounds overweight. They have no energy. They don't feel good. They think they're depressed. They think that they have other medical problems. They know there's something wrong. They want tests. They want answers. And I come back and I tell them it's what you're eating, and they don't believe me, and they walk out. Some of them are very unhappy about that. You don't want to argue. I don't want to argue. I mean, everybody has a different opinion, and we respect your opinion. And I'm sorry you're dealing with these medical issues. And I'm not saying that being a vegan is going to cure anybody of anything. What I am going to say is that being vegan could prevent a lot of diseases, and if you have diseases, going vegan and eating right can improve them. And you may be here today and alive because of the fact that you've made significant changes. And the fact that you've made the changes means to me that you've read these books. You read the China Study. Congratulations. That's a hard read. But you were convinced by reading that animal products could have played a role in your diseases and the things that you're dealing with. So enough said. We wish you well, and we're here to support you in what. Yeah, there it is, the Proteinaholic by Dr. Garth Davis. Dr. Davis is a bariatric surgeon. He's actually in Houston. All of his patients, when they come in before they get bariatric surgery, they have to read the book. Okay. The number one most effective treatment, medically speaking, for diabetes, the only treatment in the world, in the history of the planet, that has ever been proven scientifically to cure diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is the gastric sleeve or bypass. It is the only thing that's ever been proven to do that. And by changing your diet, you can get the same effect as having a gastric sleeve or a bypass.
Well, what would you rather have? Gastric surgery?
It's your pick. You choose.
Or just put
you
different
choose how you
things in
want to
your
live.
mouth? It's kind of, it's a no-brainer for me. Now, somebody has asked me, Tracy has asked, how can becoming a vegan help my pain levels due to mucked up spinal and neck surgery?
It's probably not going to help your pain levels. I mean, that's a straight honest truth. If you have a spinal injury where you have compressed nerves, you might lose a little weight by being vegan and you might be healthier. That's fine. But I doubt that it's going to fix the mechanical problem that you have due to your spinal injury. Porter64, is it just possible that I may be incorrect about you? You notice Sue's eating chips. You haven't had a chip in over 25 years. I don't know what you are eating, but I can tell you that if you are you're eating crisps, what are those?
Quinoa chips.
Quinoa chips.
With hummus.
So you're not, that is a starch. So you're having some starches, and there's nothing wrong with some starches. Could I be incorrect? I don't know you that well. I mean, look, if you want to, be honest about what you're eating to yourself, and you write down everything you eat, and you're watching to make sure that you're eating whole food plant-based, then I can tell you you're probably healthier right now than if you were eating an animal-based product. But when I see people that come in that have multiple endocrine problems, multiple autoimmune problems, these can almost always be traced back to at some point in your life when you were exposed to animal products, and they set the wheels in motion for you to have these problems now. And changing your diet to vegan doesn't necessarily cure you of those problems, but it's probably improving those problems. It's probably making them less a burden on your body. So don't give up on being vegan because you aren't cured, but continue to be vegan because it is healthier, not just for yourself, but as you mentioned, also for the planet, and also because you have a moral conviction against what's going on with industrial farming, and I do too. I loathe it. I think it's disgusting, but I didn't make that decision for myself because of those reasons. Okay? I did that. I made the decision for me to be healthier because I wanted to be healthier, and I found out that this is where my unhealthiness was coming from. So I'm not here to tell anybody that they can't eat what they want to eat. All I'm saying is you have a choice. No, I'm just saying you have a choice, and that you're not being told the truth, and I want you to get the truth, and for you to be able to make a decision that may help you be healthier and at least make an educated choice. Sue, I'm going to step out for a minute. I'm going to get myself some coffee, and I'll be back. It's all yours.
All right, then. Good for you. I shall speak to you in a minute. Right. I put Dr. Gilmore's vignette channel name up there. I know Tracy was having a problem of finding it. And Deborah is saying that she's working on her physical health, emotional health, and mental health. And and turmeric is an amazing herb, absolutely amazing herb. You can make lovely teas and coffees with that, lattes. Add turmeric to your kind of lattes that you make. It's really, really good. And there's just type in benefits of turmeric into Google, and you'll see it all in front of you. If you work on your physical health, you will work on your emotional health, because your ability to stay on track, you feel proud of yourself, and that improves your feeling about yourself, and you get the feelings of pride when you make progress, and then when you really focused on it, it gives you something to focus on. It gives you a mission that's for you, all for you. So I think when you work on emotional, physical health, basically, if you eat right, you get healthier. You just get healthier. And if you're working on losing weight, you need to get healthier to lose weight. You can't out-exercise a bad diet. You just can't. And you don't lose weight to get healthy. It's the other way around. You get healthy to lose weight. The healthier you are, the less rubbish your body will hang on to. If you're eating the wrong food, a lot of people eat the wrong food, and they can't get rid of their excess weight, and their body's hanging on to all of their fat because you're not eating enough live nutrients for the body to actually, be absorbing it. A lot of people that are very, very overweight are malnourished because they're eating a lot of stuff that isn't nourishing their bodies properly. So their body's going to want to hang on to the fat, because we hang on to fat, and in times of starvation, we can start using our fat reserves. That's part of the reason why we have fat. And of course, Dr. Gilmore's come back now. She's probably going to trash all of what I just said, because I'm not a doctor. Yes, banana! How are you going to peel that banana, Dr. Gilmore? Oh, I can't look! He is so naughty. You wouldn't make a very good gorilla. I can't look anymore. I'm covering you over now. I had a banana earlier. My banana.
You know what I've noticed? If you peel them correctly from the top, they taste better too.
I'm not listening. La 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 la. I can't hear. Now the reason I'm eating these and the hummus is because I was about to get myself a proper meal when Dr. Gilmore Skyped me and said, "Are you about?" And then we did this, and now we're here. So I am hungry, so that's why I'm eating a bit of quinoa and chip. Gwen doesn't care how her bananas are.
Now I want. Here we go. Now somebody's going to get me for my Coke Zero. I know, right?
I'm not. I'm just like.
I'm not perfect. I admit it.
That's.
I want to say something to Porter, and I just want you to know I feel your frustration, and I'm with you. I want to encourage you, and I completely concur with a lot of what you've said, and I know that being vegan is not easy, guys. This is not easy. This is not a panacea. It's not a cure-all. It's better, though, and it is healthier. And doctors, we want you to be healthy, but the truth is we very rarely cure anybody of anything. We talked about this before, right, Sue?
Yeah, we did. I was astonished. Wait till you hear this, because it's just like,
folks, we don't cure people of diabetes. We don't cure you of high blood pressure. We don't cure you of heart disease. We don't cure you of elevated cholesterol problems, increasing your risk of heart disease. What we do is we manage them. That's what we do. We help you manage your diseases. The purpose of a physician is to be available to their patients. That's all we do. We're your servants. We don't cure people. We have to cure ourselves. You keep that in mind. And that's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's why you said you enjoyed doing the procedures in your surgery so much, because that was something that you could cure. You could take that lump out and it would be gone, and that person would be better from that. And so it was something that is very exciting when it comes into your surgery, because that's something that you can make it go away.
It's very gratifying to be able to do something and you actually get a cure. That's one of them. Take out an ingrown toenail, remove a cyst, get something awful out of somebody's ear. They come in with a bug and they're going crazy, and we got to calm them down, get the stuff in there, get the bug out. You know those things. Yes, of course. But the vast majority of what we do in a clinic is we just manage chronic diseases. And Porter 64. It's not that I don't believe you. I believe you. I believe what you're telling me. I do, and I feel your frustration. I do, and I agree. It's not easy. And I also know how easy it is to end up eating too many starches, and I think that may be an issue that you're having. I don't know for sure, but you have my love, okay, and you have me as your servant. So if I can help you, I'm glad to do it. Glad to do it. And this is America, and we peel bananas from the top. And let's get that right. We don't. The British.
Do you know
that's why
I'm going to have a banana
guys,
now.
If you're gonna join us and be one of our states, you're gonna have to learn to peel from the top. This is really important.
Don't listen. He might know about doctors and doctoring and medicines and dosage and A1Cs and medication I can't even pronounce. But let me tell you, the banana thing, he's got it upside. I'm getting a banana now. Look, I've got 2 bananas. Oh, 1 banana. I'll take your banana, Jack, and I'll double it. I'm back again. Anyway, I finished now. I finished having a laugh and a rant.
All right.
That wasn't really a rant. I was just laughing with you, really. I still love you. However,
well, you're
you
awesome.
eat your banana. See,
and I just this you know, for a lot of people, the things that we're talking about are new. But for some people, it's not new. And Porter 64 has been dealing with medical issues, and she's been fighting them, and she's been dealing with them in many ways. And she's probably dealt with lots and lots of physicians over the years, and she's probably been very dissatisfied with the answers and the solutions. And she's decided to take it into her own hands and do lots of her own research and reading, and she's very educated. And there's a good chance she knows more about being a vegan than me or you, Sue. And I would step up to the plate, and I will be honest and say that's probably the case, because I've only been a vegan since February, okay?
And me since January, so.
And you since January, and I think that's why we're so evenly, you know, kind of matched as far as what this does to our bodies, and you from the human side, and what it's done for you, and me from being able to balance it with the medical stuff and say, okay, what's real and what's not real. And like you and I had a discussion about alkaline water and alkalinizing the blood, and me with my knowledge of how the body chemistry works and how the body how our body balances our pH system. I'm a skeptic on the old alkaline water thing, and I do it because of my training, not because I'm not open-minded, but because I'm open-minded until it counters what I really understand about the physiology of the human body. So if somebody believes in alkalinizing their water and alkalinizing their blood is going to make them happy, as far as I'm concerned, as long as they're not harming themselves, I say go for it, okay? Yeah, we're learning this too, but I have read numerous books. I've watched numerous documentaries and videos, and then I looked at my own life and how and how healthy and unhealthy I was becoming. And when I realized that the thing I was working toward was losing weight and changing my blood pressure and maybe working on my cholesterol, what I didn't expect to happen was that I would go from being a pre-diabetic to being normal, that my kidney function would double. I had a kidney function of a 75-year-old man, and now I have the kidney function of a 45-year-old man, which is great since I'm be 54 in a few days, right? What I didn't expect was that I'd be able to not have to use inhalers anymore to be able to carry on conversations, because I had developed adult onset asthma. Okay? So I've had a dramatic response to making those changes. Now, not everybody gets that same response, and I understand that. And so, you know, there you go. Now, I just want to say that I'm just doing the best that I can, and I want to share what I've learned, and I'm giving this away. I'm not asking for any money. I'm not asking for any recognition. I'm not asking for anything. I want to help people, and this is a way to do it. And you know, and Sue's in the same stage. She's been doing this since January, and she's had all these benefits, and we're like, we should talk to people about this. And so here we are. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. Let's just, you know, anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. We're not special. We're just two individuals that decided to grasp the nettle and just go, right, let's give this a shot. I never thought in a million years I'd become a vegan, ever. And I also thought it would be too difficult. I do think in the States, can you hear Winks managed to work out how to tune his guitar? He's just come in. I'm hoping you're going to stick some pizzas in for the young lads.
I also want to mention I've lost 50 pounds since February.
Yeah. That's just...
I was 247 pounds. I dropped all the way down to 189 before I had to have neck surgery again. And then I went up to 209 pounds because of the corticosteroids. And now that's all gone away, and I'm back down to 198, 197. So I'm at a 50-pound weight loss. And it's strictly because I don't eat animal products anymore. And I have found it's very difficult, not impossible, but it's difficult to be overweight eating whole food, plant-based, and staying away from starches.
Yeah, it is. I think it is, and I think it's more difficult in the States when you're out and about to eat healthy, because every restaurant we go to here, you can buy some kind of superfood grain salad with quinoa on it or something. There's lots and lots of vegan options, apart from obviously our local pub that didn't have any vegan options yesterday. So I ended up eating a load of crisps because that's the only thing I could eat in the pub. And that was what wasn't so good. Darling sweetheart, love of my life, please would you put some food on for the 3 teenage boys upstairs who have asked for some food? Thank you. Yeah, Finion's come down, but I told him to come down and see you, but he didn't want to walk past me in case he was live on YouTube. Yeah, I will talk about probiotics sometime. Oh, Finion has actually brought said pizzas downstairs. Can you shut the lounge door, Finion?
You know what, Sue, I want to throw out, we have been on an hour and 15 minutes. I think we should take a 5-minute intermission. Yep. And if you're still good to go, we can restart in 5 minutes. That way we can break these videos in half.
Yeah.
You guys good with that? Everybody good with that? So, because we find that if we have a 3-hour video, nobody wants to try to wade through it, but by breaking them up, it makes it easier for people to find what they're looking for if they come back.
Yeah.
So I suggest we do that. You want to do that?
Yep, let's do that. So my lovely 38 lovelies who are busy chatting to each other and coming back and all that business, we're going to shut this one down, and this will be called the same thing but part 2. So you'll see. What
did we call this one? I forget what I called it.
I called it Saturday Chit Chat, I think, although I can't even see it now.
Whatever I called my side, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to put part 2 on it.
Part 2. So don't go away. Just go and have a comfort break. See you in a minute.
5-minute potty break.
Potty break. All right then. Lots of love. See you in a minute.